Coming up on Jamaica Magazine, we have the facts on flexible work arrangements, young persons being trained to take advantage of opportunities within the energy sector, and a fun trip to Manchester, the Mount Olivet Boys' Home to be exact. Hello and welcome to Jamaica Magazine. I'm Theodore Henry. Those and so much more are in our lineup, but we start things off with Andrea Chisholm at the news desk.
Good day, I'm Andrea Chisholm and this is your JIS News for Thursday, June 19. Youth and Culture Minister Lisa Hanna has asked the Attorney General and the Office of the Children's Advocate for legal advice on the implementation of an unauthorized sexual education program in 6 privately run children's homes. In letters to both parties, the Youth Minister wanted to know what legal recourse was available to the Ministry and the Child Development Agency CDA. Reports surfaced this week that a sex education program implemented in the children's homes by human rights group Jamaicans for Justice was done without the knowledge of the CDA. The manual used to administer the program was considered inappropriate for the children and that would have breached the operating guidelines for the children's homes. Minister Hanna has since demanded a report from the CDA as to why the program was conducted for 8 or 9 months without its knowledge. The minister has also directed the CDA to immediately sharpen its monitoring function to prevent a recurrence. The Education Ministry is reminding parents and schools that transfers for GSAT students must be approved by the Education Minister. The reminder comes as students today learned how they performed in the 2014 test and the schools to which they have been assigned by the Education Ministry.
The practice where some schools decanted into other already oversupplied schools is not going to continue. And we will therefore ask for transfers to be approved here, not to stanch anybody's preference or ambition, but to make sure that we do not have the imbalance that presently exists where some schools are vastly overcrowded while others have available space.
The ministry assures that it's devoting finance and staff to help struggling schools upgrade their facilities and offerings to students. Meanwhile, the Education Ministry will be readjusting its budget to provide even more support to aid students in mathematics and literacy. In this year's GSAT, the average language arts scores remained the same as last year, while math grades actually slipped by 1%.
The Ministry of Education is readjusting its budget internally to afford significantly increased capacity both in literacy assistance and mathematics coaching in the primary schools. And we are devoting these to particularly to the weaker schools.
Government is to introduce vehicle emission standards and legislation in an effort to improve Jamaica's air quality. State Minister for Water, Land, Environment and Climate Change Ian Hills made the announcement during his sectoral presentation Tuesday.
NEPA will be finalizing the draft motor vehicle emission standard, and we expect these to be adopted into a regulatory framework this year. The implementation of this regulatory framework will allow the country to realize the testing of motor vehicle emission and regulate fleet emission.
The ministry will also be partnering with the United Nations Environment Programme and the University of Technology in implementing a global fuel efficiency initiative. This will look at issues relating to clean fuel and vehicle efficiency. Mr. Hill says discussions are also underway with Jamaica's international partners to procure a mobile air quality laboratory.
This will increase the country's emergency response to air pollution incidents and allow for prompt dissemination of information to our emergency response partners to save lives in hazardous situations.
And in addition to government's existing 8 air monitoring sites, others will be established in Manchester and St. Catherine during this financial year. On Monday, June 23, several changes to the processing of work permits for foreign nationals will take effect. The Ministry of Labour and Social Security says the restructuring is to protect the Jamaican labour force from a saturation of skills that are already available locally. Director of the Work Permit Unit in the Ministry, Lisa Ann Grant, says the flat rate of $180,000 across all sectors will be removed to introduce several categories of employment under which respective fees are to be paid. This will be based on the level of demand for the individual skill sets. Going forward, wholesale and retail trade and motor vehicle repair sectors, among others, will pay a fee of $170,000 annually. Hotel, restaurant services and construction work permits will attract a $150,000 fee. For foreigners looking to work in the finance, transport, storage and communication sectors, they will pay up to $130,000, while manufacturing, agriculture, health and education work permits will carry a maximum fee of $110,000. The application or processing fee will also move from $14,400 to $15,000.
The focus really is not an increase in fees. It's more a restructuring of how we apply fees. And it was driven by the thrust of protection on one hand and attraction on the other. It was a policy decision that was taken with a vision to see an improvement in the local labor force.
The last revision of foreign nationals' work permit fees was done in 2008. And finally, Science, Technology, Energy and Mining Minister Philip Paulwell is on his way to the European continent, where he's scheduled to attend critical meetings to boost Jamaica's telecoms profile. Between June 19 and 20, Minister Paulwell will be in London attending the Commonwealth Domain Name Systems. From June 22 to 26, the minister will contribute to the Internet Corporation for Assigned Names and Numbers ICANN 50 meeting. On June 26, he heads to Geneva for the Ministerial Forum for the second working session of the Smart Sustainable Development Model SSDM Advisory Board. All the meetings will seek to strengthen key areas of the island's Internet Services Network, including increased access, management, cybersecurity, and the use of ICT for disaster management. Minister Paulwell returns to the island on June 29. And that's it for GIS News today. I'm Andrea Chisholm. Thank you for watching.
When a motorcyclist or pedal cyclist is involved in a crash, he or she is likely to face serious head injuries. With a helmet on, those could be less severe. Always wear a securely fastened helmet and ensure pillion passengers wear them too. Never reuse a helmet once it has taken a hit. Avoid drinking alcohol and other distractions. Do not bob and weave through traffic or ride facing the oncoming traffic. And remember to follow all established rules of the road. Avoid the legal and physical penalties. On the road, safety comes first. Obey the rules and save lives.
Will everyone be on a flexible work arrangement system once the law has been changed? And what are the potential benefits to businesses and individuals? We got the facts about those and other critical questions from Camille Bennett-Campbell of the Ministry of Labour and Social Security.
On March 25, 2014, the Employment Flexible Work Arrangements Miscellaneous Provisions Act was tabled in Parliament. It sets out to amend provisions relating to hours and days of work in several pieces of legislation to facilitate the implementation of flexible working arrangements in Jamaica. The end goal? To position the country's labor market to take advantage of investments and other economic opportunities. Flexi-work is an alternate arrangement or schedule from the traditional Monday to Friday 9 to 5 working day or week. In principle, it allows individual employees and employers more room to choose when they start and end the workday, or even which day of the week to work.
So it could be that a person could be starting at 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock, 10 o'clock, or it could be that the hours you work could be 8, it could be 10, it could be 12. Days of the week would no longer have to be just Monday to Friday. You could choose.
But does this mean that everyone will be on a flexi-work system once the law is changed?
Flexible work arrangement is not for everybody, and we must emphasize that. So it's not going to be that every company will implement flexible work arrangements. Every company has to assess whether this will work in my particular organization, having regard to what I actually do as a business.
Since flexi-work will not suit every organization, you might ask, what if I want to work flexible days and hours and the company I work for is not implementing it?
Well, flexible work arrangements, it's all about negotiation. The employer cannot force the worker to implement flexi work and to work flexi hours. The worker cannot force the employer to implement flexi work. It has to be discussion and agreement between the parties.
And what of those who would seek to implement it without negotiation?
If you choose to vary that contract, the worker can institute proceedings for breach of contract. And the same goes for the employer too if the worker tries to vary it without the agreement. Because right now, persons are under existing contracts of employment, which sets out their terms and their days of rest.
When the bill is passed, the Ministry of Labour will be monitoring all complaints, so persons who find themselves in this situation should report the matter to the Ministry's Pay and Conditions of Employment branch, and there is an office in each parish. Over 20 pieces of legislation are to be amended to facilitate the implementation of flexible work arrangements. The amendments will specify that the work week should consist of 40 hours and that overtime is to be computed after the employee has completed 40 hours of work. That means for those opting for Flexi Week, overtime will not begin after an 8-hour workday, but only when you have worked beyond your 40-hour work week. The bill will also increase the number of hours in a workday from 8 or 10 hours to a maximum of 12 hours, reflect that all 7 days of the week should be considered as possible working days, and make it lawful for women to work at night.
Well, the organization would now not be restricted in opening hours. They'd have more freedom to choose the opening hours that would best suit their needs, so they can increase their productivity and also their profits. The individual will be able to more balance work life with family life, could choose the work arrangements which would best actually mesh with their family obligations, like picking up children. And also they could earn more because it would allow you to choose to work for different people to actually get more money. For the nation, of course, if the businesses are actually producing more, individuals are actually earning more, employment has increased, and it will swell well for the nation.
Persons can choose from a range of flexi work options. One option allows for working part-time hours and is still earning benefits such as vacation and sick leave. Flexible time allows individuals and businesses to vary the start and end time of each workday. Persons can also telecommute, essentially working from a location other than the office, such as your home. And then there is the compressed work week. This is where you work your 40 hours over a 3 to 4 day period. But be careful not to fall below the threshold of 110 days worked to qualify for vacation leave entitlement.
A person who works for 3 days would have only worked for 156 days in the year. So they would still get vacation leave because they've passed the threshold of 110, but under the holidays with pay order. To obtain vacation leave of 2 weeks, you have to work under the statute for 220 days. So that gets you closer to somebody who works for 4 days for the week, for example.
And since all 7 days will be regarded as work days, what will pertain to working on public holidays?
The flexi work arrangements bill will not change any provisions we public general holidays and the payment of overtime to those workers. Persons under minimum wage will still be entitled to double time for working on holidays, and persons who work in shops. Other persons who are not minimum wage earners who don't work in shops, your contract will still govern how you are paid overtime, because that was always the case.
We are not about taking away people's rights. We are about trying to ensure that we organize work in such a way that Jamaica can be competitive.
And what we need to do is to ensure that we don't delay any further, so we can take full advantage of the opportunities being offered to us for growth, development, and prosperity.
So there is nothing to prevent any company today from looking at their operations, looking at their markets, and making a determination as to what is the best production fit for their business.
In the meantime, the Ministry of Labour and Social Security continues to invite national input with public forums and education campaigns.
The Land Administration and Management Program LAMP is relocating to 16A Halfway Tree Road as of Monday, June 16, 2014. LAMP's new opening hours as of June 16 will be 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. Mondays to Fridays. The new telephone number is 633-7300. Until then, only the collection of documents and telephone queries will be facilitated at the existing Hope Gardens office. During the relocation period, LAMP may be reached at the following telephone numbers. You may also email lamp@mwlecc.gov.jm.
The JIS continues to exercise corporate responsibility and contribute to nation building by supporting the less fortunate. Having adopted the Mount Olivet Boys Home since 2009, the agency is using sports and exercise as integral components of the boys' development. We shared in their sports day recently, and oh, what fun we had.
It's the ideal weather with fair skies and the anticipation of a fun-filled day of sporting activities climaxed. Taking a break from the usual task of informing the nation on government's program policies and matters of national interest, focus is now shifted to another area of nation building.
We wanted to be agents of change. We know that one person can make a difference in the lives of our children, even one in a positive manner, so that that one could go out and impact so many other lives positively in this community and by extension, the larger community and Jamaica on a whole. And we know that these boys will do well.
As true now as it was when first uttered, this is the fuel that drove JIS staff and friends from Kingston to the cool hills of Walderston, Manchester on the morning of April 26, 2014. Welcomed with opened arms, they were there to celebrate Sports Day 2014 with the boys of the Mount Olivet home. The JIS team is promoting a healthy lifestyle for a group of boys who have come to represent more than a corporate responsibility and who are now simply part of the JIS family. Others have bought into the program, and Sports Day 2014 welcomed such sponsors as Tasty Limited, Coldfield Manufacturers, Maxfield Bakery, Caribbean Broilers, and Wisynco through the YBF Freight Foundation. This new and modern playing field with room for football and basketball courts sprang from the efforts of Johan Blake's charity. It was put to good use as the boys, JIS staff and friends geared up for the exciting challenge of bag and egg races, football and, most fittingly, track. At the end, Red House came out victorious. But everyone was a winner, walking away with fun in their hearts and renewed life lessons, reinforcing the value of teamwork and winning or losing with class, not to mention the health benefits of exercising. Sports Day 2014 was yet another opportunity to strengthen the bond between JIS and the Mount Olivet boys, facilitated by its many generous sponsors. This driven team has been providing caring family support to the boys since December 2009, with multiple visits to mark and celebrate milestones like the new school year, Easter, and Christmas. Sports Day 2014 at the Mount Olivet Boys Home is now history, but the JIS family will continue to share the love with these wards of the state, giving them support all year round.
We want a productive Jamaica. We are not productive Jamaicans. Productivity to move forward on this land. Productivity, that's the way to go, we should understand. Productivity is the way to go for all us Jamaicans. Small business, big business, old and young, we are tell every woman and man. We want growth and prosperity for a better nation with a building plan. So we can build our product and sell our product and put more money in our hand. Our economy can rise to a level and build a better nation. Productivity to move forward on this land. Productivity, that's the way to go, we should understand. Productivity to move forward on this land. Productivity, that's the way
Productivity, Pathway to Prosperity. A message brought to you by the Jamaica Productivity Center, a department of the Ministry of Labor and Social Security.
And speaking of productivity, the Caribbean Maritime Institute is engaging young persons in a critical area of energy conservation-based employment, that of assembling light-emitting diode or LED lamps. This is preparing a workforce to take charge of opportunities in the energy sector that can reap positive benefits for our nation.
We have been taught from an early age to conserve on energy by turning off lights and appliances when not in use, and to even avoid opening the refrigerator too often. And that's still not enough. With the inconsistency in the price of oil, which affects the cost of electricity, more and more conservation measures are being promoted, like the use of solar panels and LED lights.
LEDs, light-emitting diodes. It used to be used for panels for signal on amplifiers and VCRs and all. But recently, for about 5 years or so, it has been used widely for lighting purpose.
This is due mainly to the cost-effectiveness of the energy generated by LEDs. And when compared with the regular incandescent bulbs found in most homes, LED lights, according to the experts, have a lower energy consumption rate and last longer. This means high demand for light-emitting diode illumination outlets. So it's no wonder Jamaica is now training students who are enrolled in the Career Advancement Program CAP to manufacture and assemble these lights. This is being carried out by the Caribbean Maritime Institute, CMI, exposing the budding entrepreneurs to the skills and knowledge of the craft.
Anything that is new, anything that is for the future, we want our students to have first-hand experience. We want our students to be able to not only build, but also to know how to do, so that when they leave it, they can create jobs.
Any good LED lighting system has 3 basic requirements to make it efficient.
From the outset, the students here are aware that it's not just about assembling the lights. They have to know and understand how each part, when put together correctly, will give us the desired light. These 3 requirements are the driver or power supply, the optics, which are the actual LEDs, and the heat sink, a heat-controlled thermal supply. Putting together a LED light requires careful planning. This means that both the design and the distribution of light, or the area you want to light up, must be taken into consideration. That way, you can determine how many of these tiny 1-watt LEDs or optics are to be used. Then, you may want to look at your driver.
People say it's a power supply, but it's a bit more than that. Your driver will determine how reliable and how well designed your solution is.
In other words, based on the amount of power that is required to light the bulbs, the driver or the power supply will regulate the voltage that flows through your circuit or indicate where there is a problem. Not to be left out is the all-important heatsink. This heat thermal must be carefully designed so that hot air, which is produced from the light, is able to escape. If this is not done, the unit will not work properly.
Many people have bypassed this part and units run hot, and instead of lasting as long as they should, you have now cut the life maybe sometimes by 50%. An LED properly designed should last for at least 50,000 hours.
With all the elements in place, students go on to outfitting strips like this one with LEDs to create a multiple miniature unit. This allows for even distribution of lights. The LEDs, which are not locally manufactured, are tested at the same time they are being installed. After this, the strip is then wired to the heatsink, connected to the power supply, and retested for overall working capacity. If all this is approved, it's then covered with a lamp and ready for use and distribution.
One of the objectives is to ensure that we get quality output, and that is competitive for the market. We're looking to increase the scale, improve the quality, the sustainability of it, and the viability of it.
The training forms part of a partnership between the Caribbean Maritime Institute and Solar and Fire Protection Services, a company already in the business of producing LED lights.
The company has been doing a lot of research over the years with LEDs and always yearned for the time when we could collaborate with a universities that have proper research facilities.
Part of the partnership that excites us is that our students will have the opportunity to work with this industry on campus here to manufacture parts of the LED light. So our students have the opportunity to be involved in something that is the way forward.
The assembling of LED lights is an added component to the CMI's business development solution, and students are also trained in the maintenance and repairing of LED lights.
It means that CMI will be impacting the nation's energy bill in a significant way. We also be keeping the skills in Jamaica, so these Jamaican youngsters who are being taught at CMI to be part of the production cell will leave with skills that they can use elsewhere.
And we expect that this will spread, that when they leave here, they will form companies that will multiply, and that in the next 5 years, all LED lights will be manufactured locally. That will boost the country's economy, that will reduce our dependency on oil, and that will reduce our debt.
These sentiments are shared by the government as it enforces measures to mitigate the country's high energy cost.
Can do to help Jamaica is to pay my bills and my tax them that I'm to pay, that Jamaica will get something off. You understand? That's what I can do.
Probably win the Super Lotto and try to disperse some money to some people who are really in need.
After all work, for a better Jamaica.
We can help the old people them and make the place clean.
Try set myself up as a kind of iconic figure for the youngsters. See if I can implement any change or anything of the sort, if they will listen. Do what is good and hope that the youngsters will try and follow.
Personally, I think that for Jamaica to move forward, we have to enhance our family values. Once we teach our children the right attitudes and values, this will be ricocheted throughout the society, and we will go forward as a united nation.
There'll be a better tomorrow. 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 There'll be a day. There'll be a way. There'll come a time to sing a brand new song. There'll be a better tomorrow.
This is how we close the show for today, but we don't have to lose this connection. Keep the link via our website, jis.gov.jm. Send us some feedback via email or a tweet at JIS News. Join us again tomorrow, same time, same station. On behalf of the production crew, I'm Theodore Henry. Take care.
This has been a production of the Jamaica Information Service, the voice of Jamaica.